Welcome back, Focus Learners. Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a massive financial paradigm shift. For decades, the traditional advice has literally always been exactly the same, right? Save, 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 cut back, clip your coupons, penny pinch your way to retirement, and, absolutely give up that daily latte because apparently that is the secret to becoming a millionaire. But what if that conventional wisdom is actually slowing you down? Today, we're breaking down a completely different approach to wealth building. We're going to look at why you might get rich a whole lot faster by focusing on your earning potential rather than just aggressively slashing your expenses. Okay, let's dive into this. What if you're trying to save your way to wealth when you should actually be earning your way there? Think about your own financial journey for a second. Have you ever spent hours or honestly maybe even days hunting for a slightly cheaper phone plan? Or maybe you've tried that classic tactic of canceling every single coffee run or ruthlessly cutting out all your streaming subscriptions just to save a few bucks. It's a painful, limiting reality, isn't it? Extreme budgeting takes a massive toll on your mental energy. You're essentially trying to save your way to wealth when really you should be earning your way there. Which brings us to Section 1, the limits of saving. You see, there's a fundamental mathematical flaw to the whole save your way to wealth strategy, and it's this. Your expenses have a firm floor. There's a hard limit to how much you can actually cut. You can only cancel so many subscriptions and skip so many meals out before you hit absolute zero. You still need shelter, you still need food, you still need electricity, right? Trying to build immense wealth purely by cutting expenses is just incredibly frustrating. It's like trying to squeeze water from a stone. You can squeeze and squeeze, but eventually there's just nothing left to give. But while your expenses have a very rigid floor, your income operates under a completely different set of rules. And that leads us to Section 2, earning has no ceiling. This is where the new way of wealth building comes in, and this brilliantly illustrates the undeniable math behind it. If your expenses have a hard floor, your earning potential is the exact opposite. It's practically limitless. There is essentially no ceiling on what you can bring in. Take budgeting, for instance. If you agonize over your finances and manage to cut $100 from your monthly spending, well, you've created exactly $100 of extra cash flow. That's good. Saving is definitely important. But now compare that to earning. If you shift your energy toward developing a valuable skill that increases your income by just $1,000 a month, you've just created a massive $12,000 of extra annual income before taxes. The difference in impact is just staggering. So moving on to Section 3, skills that pay you more. How do we actually make that leap? Well, the absolute fastest way to change your financial future isn't to spend less, but to become more valuable. You've got to think about what businesses and customers are actively willing to pay for. We're talking about high-value, highly leveraged skills here. Sales, programming, artificial intelligence, marketing, design, engineering, leadership, content creation, consulting, entrepreneurship. Now don't worry, you absolutely do not need to master all of these. Actually, scratch that. The specific skill on this list matters far less than the core principle operating right behind them. And that core principle is simply this: solve valuable problems and become difficult to replace. I really want to pause and let that sink in for a second. When you become irreplaceable because you solve high-value problems, the entire game changes. Increasing your income this way doesn't mean you're just grinding and working more hours forever. No, it means you increase your income per hour. It means you can create scalable products or build income-producing assets. You're effectively severing that tie between your time and your money. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that people are actively doing this right now. According to a 2025 Bankrate survey, 27% of U.S. adults already report having a side hustle to scale their income. And the data shows that younger generations are really leading this charge. Over a quarter of the population realizes that relying on a single income stream or just, clipping coupons simply isn't enough anymore. So they're actively taking their earning potential into their own hands. But before we get too carried away, let's look at Section 4, the lifestyle inflation trap. Yeah, before you go out and triple your income, we've got to talk about a major plot twist. A higher income alone does not automatically create wealth. If you aren't careful, you can make an absolute fortune and still end up totally broke. This is what we call lifestyle inflation. It happens when your income doubles. Let's say you finally get that massive promotion or your side hustle totally takes off, but then your spending lifestyle doubles exactly with it. You buy the bigger car, you get the fancier apartment, the designer clothes. If your spending rises at the exact same rate as your new higher income, your financial position barely improves at all. You're essentially just running in place on a much fancier, much more expensive treadmill.
Let's move to Section 5, the wealth building formula, and see how this builds into an actual strategy.
So how do we bypass that lifestyle inflation trap and actually keep the money we figured out how to make? Well, here is the proven 4-step blueprint for accelerated wealth building. Step 1, of course, is increasing your income, which, as we've established, has absolutely no ceiling. But step 2 is where most people completely fail, controlling your lifestyle inflation. You have to keep your living expenses stable, even as you start earning more. Once you do that, step 3 actually becomes really easy. You invest that massive difference into productive assets that make money while you sleep. And finally, step 4, repeat the process. When you fluidly combined increased earning potential with disciplined spending and investments, you literally create an unstoppable wealth engine. So as you walk away from this explainer today, I want you to reframe your mindset. Your immediate goal shouldn't necessarily be trying to become a millionaire overnight or, trying to slash your grocery bill all the way to zero. Your goal should be to focus on consistent personal growth. Become more valuable every single year. Learn that new skill, master the new software. Become the person who solves the expensive problems. Because as this quote states so perfectly, the greatest income-producing asset you may ever own is yourself. So the crucial point is this: stop treating yourself like a fixed line item on a budget that just needs to be managed, and start treating yourself like a limitless asset that needs to be actively developed. So what's one skill you can start learning today to multiply your value tomorrow? Think about it.